Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Michael J.
So, Modern, also a format, also a Grand Prix format. We just had a Grand Prix in Modern last weekend.
Oh, yeah. And a format affected by the guilds of Ravnica.
Go figure. Great set. Cards are available. Let's go.
Yeah, besides, I mean, got to keep the, a little something up my sleeve for this weekend. It's not like I'm just going to play one of the most popular decks in a relatively stock version. So, for this weekend, it's not actually like, explicitly guilds of Ravnica, and it's something we've talked about over the last 6 months, but it does have a little bit of new tech, and that's Bant Spirits. Bant Spirits kind of has had a renaissance of sorts ever since Supreme Phantom got printed in Core Set Magic 2019 TM. And, between Supreme Phantom and then all the various, return to Innistrad cards, there's a lot of incentives for spirits themselves. But like we saw just a couple weeks ago, Night of Autumn appearing in human decks, here we see it in a spirit deck, continuing to not be a human or a spirit, but just being an outrageously dope Magic the Gathering card.
Very flexible card, sure. So you want to talk about Pei Yung Zhang's Bant Spirits deck? I believe that was the winning deck of Grand Prix.
Yep. Yep.
So, like you said, Supreme Phantom X4 in the main deck. So, Supreme Phantom, how is this a real Magic card, right? So, it's
that's kind of a philosophical question.
It's like 1 and a U for a 1/3. People like me just played that to block back in the day, but it also has flying, and it's a Lord for Spirits. Like, this is kind of a good card.
Yeah, I mean the opening of the Wanderer, the Mausoleum Wanderer into Supreme Phantom into Drogscale Captain, that's a nice one, right?
Oh yeah, I mean that's just the curve.
And that's to say nothing of like Selfless Spirit and Spell Queller adding like real excellent other hits for spots on the curve.
Oh yeah, and then all that stuff just goes together with, like in this version particularly, Collected Company, right? So I think the differentiating thing with Bant Spirits versus like just Azorius Spirits is you start on the Noble Hierarch, right? And then you get a Collected Company payoff. What do you think about that, Patrick, versus just being blue and white?
I mean, I love Collected Company in this deck. And I think Noble Hierarch actually just does really good work in the first place for letting you actually be able to have enough mana while not just flooding out. Because, like, the damage from the Noble Hierarch actually matters. And the thing that I'm just sort of uneasy with is this whole, so I'm going to play 3 Aether Vials in my Aether Vial deck.
Yeah, I see the same number. It's like if you're doing a little handyman work around the house and you smash your own thumb with a hammer, and it's like boom, 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 3 times, but not 4.
I have no idea what that means. What I do know is that I would play with 4 Aether Vials in my Aether Vial deck most of the time.
I am saying the 4th Aether Vial that's not there is screaming loudly. This is like a sore thumb. Yeah, but I mean, that's what people are doing. They've got 3 Aether Vials in their Bant Spirits deck. Not the first time we've seen it.
You're like a rapper. And that's like a punchline. I get it.
I'm like a rapper. Like, do I surround chocolate? Delicious, delicious chocolate.
Oh, I see. That's like a play on words.
Yeah, very. I'm just, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm doing a little LSV for you.
Oh, I get it. That's trippy, man. So
colliding your worlds, like
yes,
like Noble Hierarch collides green mana into this blue-white deck.
Who do you taught him how to pun? Please, the kids today have no idea. So, what do you think of this style? Are we going to continue to see Bant Spirits at the top, or is this a flash in the pan? Because I thought that the Bant Spirits deck looked nice against the billion Ironworks combo decks that we saw all over the place on day 2.
Yeah, so is this what makes this a great matchup? Like access to Stony Silence after sideboarding? Like,
well, so first of all, it's a lot of pressure. this Bant Spirits deck is not slow. The combination of having like legit 1-drops, like Supreme Phantom and Drug Scale Captain can really stack up the damage against somebody and Phantasmal Image for that matter, against somebody who's just goldfishing. And then the ability to keep counter magic open and then Collected Company so that you're threatening lethal if they don't go for it. This is just, you have a fast clock to begin with, but then you also have Spell Queller main deck, so that you have like game-winning disruption to start with. The Wanderer is like not 0 in terms of being a force of disruption, and then the sideboard of Night of Autumn, Stony Silence, Rest in Peace, Disdainful Stroke, like it's just Unified Will. It's just
We're throwing the Tormod's Crypt in, right? Like, if Rest in Peace is there, we just got to throw it in.
So the fact that you start off with, like, a fast clock and a non-zero amount of interaction, and then you just board in everything and just turn it into a complete blowout.
I mean, I think you decided Dramica's Command is not a huge hit there, is it?
Yeah, I don't think you want Worship or Dramica's Command.
Really?
You like Worship?
I mean, it's pretty tough for them to get out of Geist Worship. Right? Like, I mean, they could.
I don't think so. When they go off, they can, like, draw their deck.
Yeah, but they have to have the right cards in their deck, right? Like, there's no guarantee.
No, they do. They already have it. They're not gonna board out their Engineered Explosives.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. No, I think that does nothing. I think remember, they have access to explosives, and they can do all 5 trivial. Once they go off, they get everything.
Okay. I can see it. I was just wondering. It seemed like
it's a good question to ask.
Like a spell bomb, man.
Yeah, there's plenty of combo decks where that sort of technology, letting you hit from a different angle, is like actually just an underappreciated and underused way to change what the matchup is about. I just think that it is in the case of the Ironworks deck that it is so easy for them to draw their entire deck. And they already have Engineered Explosives. It's industry standard. Everybody has it, lots of copies, and they're never going to cut it against you. That's just not, Yeah. Plus, they're going to have like they're going to play some sort of Nature's Claim stuff anyway. Like, they're already boarding in Nature's Claim in anticipation of Stony Silence.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, Stony Silence is a killer for them, and Rest in Peace isn't doing them any favors. So you're right. They're probably bringing that in. I like this deck in the main deck a little bit because it's like you have like double the Spell Queller action for that matchup. So like if you're just playing blue-white, you're just Spell Quellering. But the Collected Company deck, if you don't have a Spell Queller but you have a company, you can roll the dice. You might just live.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the Collected Company adds a very powerful aspect to this deck,
Yeah, I mean, I love
this matchup.
I love the kind of Supreme Phantom Drog Skull Captain draws, though. Like that, it feels like goblins, like just oppressive,
totally
beat downs, and that's coming from like a flying blue-white deck with permission. So it's just kind of cool.
Yep. So what do you think about this deck moving forward, though? I mean, obviously, like, I think it's got a really good combo matchup, but is this deck really going to hold up against like any sort of? I mean, admittedly, it's also well set up against the graveyard decks. Like all these Rest in Peace, Tormod's Crypt, plus just a fast clock, flyers. There's a lot to like there, too.
I mean, you could like just plausibly mulligan towards your Rest in Peace, right? He's got 3 Rest in Peace and a Tormod's Crypt. Actually, to that point, why would you go 3 Rest in Peace and 1 Tormod's Crypt? Like, why wouldn't you just go harder on Rest in Peace, for example?
I think a combination of if you draw 2, maybe the Tormod's Crypt plus a Rest in Peace is just enough better than just having 2 Rest in Pieces in your hand. Second of all, the extra Rest in Pieces, maybe, that's a slightly I don't know, man. I'm just trying to figure out what could possibly make you want to go the other way. Because none of the graveyard decks, they're not playing anything that like just completely locks you out of the enchantments or anything. I mean, or locks you out of copies of the one card.
Like if you have redundant copies of Rest in Peace and you don't have a Stony Silence, right? Obviously, if a Stony Silence, this won't make sense. But you can get explosives out, right? But even if they have an explosives, if you have Tormod's Crypt sitting there, they have to deal with 2 different ones at 2 different casting costs. Like, I think that's something maybe.
No, I don't know, because the Rest in Peace would have already done it on the way in. I don't think the explosive. I don't know.
I'm just grasping here. When you play,
I think it's just that it's faster. It's just that you got to remember, if you just have a Rest in Peace in your hand and your opponent's on the play, they could just have 10 power on turn 2 before you've even had a chance to play Rest in Peace.
So it's just just sometimes you get it.
So like if you draw 2 Rest in Peace, it's just better to have a Rest in Peace and a Crypt, because by the time you Rest in Peace, you're usually winning anyway if you haven't already lost. And at least Tormod's Crypt does a lot of good on the way in, but wins a lot of games where if you would have drawn 2 Rest in Pieces, you would have lost.
It's also helpful somewhat against like Hollow One and Bridgevine decks, right?
Well, so is Rest in Peace. I mean,
no, I mean just for pure speed. Like the thing is, like
that's the exact spot where I think that's the exact spot.
Yeah, like Bridgevine, like they don't even need to have their graveyard working for 2 turns in a row, right? So like if they're just like boom, 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 here's my stuff. Like Tormod's Crypt is way more valuable if they're on their super fast draw going first. I think like was your point. I don't know. I'm a little apprehensive about decks that don't super specialize in Modern. Like I feel like Modern is a format where somebody finds a direction and they push in that direction, and they're playing in the long tournament and they're just running up against people that don't have the right defense against their thing that they're pushing, and then that's where winners are coming out of, right? Like whether that's amulets, whether that's other Primeval Titan decks like Valakut, whether that's Burn, whether that's Hardened Scales. And I think like Bant Spirits is like a very middle strategy. It does some things real explosively sometimes, and it has obviously very good sideboard cards, but I feel like just on pure kind of pushing away from the center and punishing people with extremity, I don't think it has that going for it.
Yeah, it's definitely, as far as how ultra linear Modern is right now, it's definitely very linear light, relatively speaking. I mean, if you just look at the rest of this top 8, Ironworks combo, nearly colorless combo deck, Hardened Scales, an aggro deck that's really all colorless deck combo, Infect combo, Hollow One combo, Ironworks combo, Bridgevine combo. I mean, Golgari, it's weird. It's like the top tables are these ultra-linear graveyard and colorless decks. Golgari Tron, it's like, okay, I guess that's a ramp deck, but it's still ultra-weird and ultra-all-in and ultra-colorless.
Yeah. Who plays colors?
Dude, Golgari Tron? Isn't Golgari Tron going to smash Bant Spirits?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Bant Spirits it's just like a fly. It's trying to sting an elephant. That's
maybe to get there. Maybe the Tron deck's too slow.
I mean, maybe the fly is carrying a virus and the elephant's going to die from sickness. But yeah, it seems a little small to me.
I guess Stony Silence is, that's a pretty big game.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, if you compare, obviously that's not in this top 8, but if you compare Bant Spirits to just like straight green-white collected company, the deck that's got all the Ghost Quarters and the Aven Mind Sensors and the Path to Exile, that deck. Like they're just a green-white creature deck with Corsair Cryphix or something, but they're like gaining life, they're like making a big guy, and at the same time they're just taxing your resources so relentlessly. At some point they're like just Ghost Quartering your basics and you're just out. I feel like that is the kind of thing that is one of the just kind of like defining opportunities in Modern versus like, all right, I've got this deck. It does 2 or 3 things reasonably well. Like, I mean, Zhang doesn't even have like a Busto, Noble Hierarch into Geist of Saint draft draw, right? Like there are different decks that just specialize into going.
No, doesn't he have exactly that? He has literally Noble Hierarchy into Geist of St. Traff.
Yeah, I mean, he has one Geist and one in his sideboard.
Right, so he's got to draw. He's got to draw.
Fine. You're right. His deck is capable of doing that, and it is twice as capable of doing that in game 2. I'm saying, like, there are other decks in Modern where people are like, I'm in on this thing, and you can't handle my Geist, and it's going to murder you. And he obviously doesn't have that as a specific angle on his deck. And I'm not taking anything away from this deck. I'm just kind of answering where do I think it is on a forecast basis for future Modern tournaments. It's not scratching my Modern itch. Like the kind of decks that I look at in Modern, like, oh yeah, this deck is gonna do a lot of damage over the next couple of months. Like, Death Shadow, something they're doing something really well, and they're pushing the envelope in a certain way. And if you don't have the right defense, they're just gonna put an arrow through your heart.
Oh, I don't want an arrow through my heart.
Then don't go to Modern, man. That's just that's how they play. They play rough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. There was a slightly different tempo deck, though, that was of a very, very different variety than this Bant Spirits deck. Narrowly missing top 8 and the top 16, Yuta Takahashi's Blue-Black Fairies deck. I was curious your thoughts on this sort of other angle. I mean, obviously missed the top 8, but this is old school as hell. It's got some newer cards in it, but man, when was the last time we saw a deck that had 4 Bitter Blossom, 3 Liliana of the Veil, 3 Jace the Mind Sculptor, and then for fairies, and I don't know, it's weird. Like, do you consider it a fairy deck? Like, it has 4 Bitter Blossoms, but the only actual fairies in the deck are 2 Mutavaults and 2 Spellstutter Sprites. I think this is really just a blue-black control deck.
Yeah, they're just generous because Takahashi has won multiple blue-black fairies tournaments across multiple formats. I think they just wanted to trifecta him.
I see.
This isn't a real fairies. Like, I mean, obviously it has Bitter Blossom.
2 Spellstutter Sprites,
Come on. Didn't you once win a PTQ where, like, Spellstutter Sprite was your only fairy? Like, it was just like a blue-white deck? You were just Spellstutter Spriting people?
The deck has 4 Sower of Temptations, man.
All right, so, yeah, your deck was even fairier than this deck then. Like, you actually had, like, 8 fairies. He's got 2 Spellstutter Sprites, and Bitter Blossom is a fairy enchantment, a tribal enchantment. This deck, I will give it the following things. I do think it's awesome, and I will point out that this deck is chock full of banned cards. Bitter Blossom used to be banned. Jace the Mind Sculptor used to be banned. Takahashi might be onto something. These are some powerful cards, and just because we haven't seen these cards in combination in Modern anytime recently doesn't mean that he doesn't have something going on. Like you said, he's got, like, really good cards, like Cryptic Command, right? Like, it's not just old school, like, I hated playing against second turn Bitter Blossom, trying to eke my way back into the game, and then just getting tapped down by wave after wave of Cryptic Command while he's coming over with a legion of 1/1 flying creatures. And that was before they printed Snapcaster Mage. I mean, this deck is just, it's probably got some sweet angles. And, I mean, it's just
so here's a couple of removal spells, man. Cast Down. That's like,
yeah.
Dude, Cast Down. What legends do people even play?
I don't know. None.
Cast Down seems dope.
Throw the last troll that the people play that one.
Hero's Downfall.
Yeah, this is like, I don't know. I love behind that.
I would. Oh yeah. No, I played Hero's Downfall in the previous format.
Yeah.
I think Hero's Downfall is underrated Modern card.
It would have to be because most people have it rated very, very low.
Hero's Downfall is like a Vraska's Contempt for the remotely sane. But it's like it's admittedly it takes a sophisticated palate to want to just show up with murder in Modern.
So I'll tell you this, Patrick. You know what legend people do play, and we have had controversy over this over and over again when they do it? Little Miss Dawnbringer. That's actually a good reason why Lyra Dawnbringer might be, contending with Baneslayer Angel in Modern if people are going to cast down. Because you can cast down the bejesus out of a Baneslayer Angel, but you can't do that to Lyra. I still would say that the first Lyra is worse than the first Baneslayer Angel. But I think if you've got 1 and 1, I think I might be able to get behind it, in part because of these cast downs.
Dude, and in part because of the +1/+1.
Yeah. Woo! I mean, if you sided that guy in and he's going, I think the +1/+1 is just like gravy. I mean, maybe it's a really delicious gravy, but it's not the meal.
What do you think of 1 Spell Pierce, 3 Cryptic Commands, and 2 Spell Stutter Sprites as the only permission? Seems a little light.
I will tell you, I would never be able to predict that. So, like, I'm sure he would just destroy you with the Spell Pierce by drawing it because he's got 1. And then, like, the Spell Stutter Sprite is probably a great tempo play sometimes. And it's just a great, like, powerhouse play later in the game with Bitter Blossom. And he only has to really draw, like, 1 Cryptic Command because Snapcaster Mage is going to do the rest for him. This deck can accumulate some offense, remember, right? Like, you start getting those 1/1 counters out there. I'm sorry, 1/1 flyers out there. Just kill you in 3 or 4 attacks.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think he's probably murdering people with Liliana and Jace, and that, like, it might be the case that his Bitter Blossom's main goal is to just protect Jace from mediocre attacking.
That could be. I just, when I see 4 Fatal Push, 2 Heroes Downfall, 2 Cast Down, and a top 8 of all combo decks, I don't know, man. I also, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but this is kind of an old-fashioned deck. I would want a second Damnation. I think Damnation is just such a great card.
So I'm actually just going to do some quick math here. So he's got 2 Cast Down, 4 Fatal Push. That is 6. 2 Heroes Downfall. That's 8. Does he even have 8 cards that he wants to bring in against combo? Spell Pierce, Negate is 3. Click, Snare.
I mean, there's Spell Bombs.
Yeah, he could bring in, like, Relics and Spell Bombs, which are... I guess those are good against the graveyard-based stuff.
Totally, and Surgical and Spell Pierce.
Totally fine. You're right.
Yeah, this sideboard has, like, 11 easy, and contextually maybe more.
I mean, and actually against some of those combo decks, you actually want primary creature removal anyway. Like, it disrupts their combo.
Yep. So I think this deck is sweet. I'm interested in working with this a little bit. If you can just tell me that I can play with Jace, Liliana, and Snapcaster Mage and Cryptic Command, I'm like, okay, sign me up for your newsletter.
Yeah, like the other 47 cards are irrelevant to you.
Like whatever, I'm in. You talked me into it.
I mean, Bitter Blossom is a messed up Magic card. It is literally, I don't know. Not figuratively, my least favorite Magic card.
Really? Below Bridge from Below?
Oh, no, I mean,
That's not a Magic card.
I got no problems with the people who are Bridge from Belong. I mean, I do have a problem with them, but, like, you just learn to live with it, right? Those guys get beat up by linear stuff, anti-linear stuff, right? Bitter Blossom, they templated it so that even when you had the stuff that was good against them, they had an out. You know, like, how many times you're just like, all right, Volcanic Fallout for your missed Mind Click, but Bitter Blossom digs them out of it. I hated that. Every single time. I hated it.
I don't know. I've always enjoyed playing against Bitter Blossom and have beaten it in so many formats where supposedly you weren't supposed to. I think Bitter Blossom is a completely reasonable card. My only issue is that I think that we can do better.
Patrick, I think this to be a different kind of mage. And in the past couple of years, all I do is cast Shocks and summon Eidolon to the Great Revel. What do you think did that to me? I became twisted into Lava Spike Human because of Bitter Blossom. I couldn't beat it with any other decks. So one day, it was just like 2 drops and Blightnings. That's how it is. And then as the formats went on, I just chose the 2 drops and Blightnings that made sense in that format.
Well, that's okay. We're not going to hold that against you. Dude, just out of the top 16, Arclight Phoenix in Mardu instead of Izzet.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? In Metza's Mardu Pyromancer deck, you know, like kind of just like the straight up, Jerry T style, but instead of Manamorphose, having Arclight Phoenix.
Yeah, I think that the clay isn't dry on this yet. There is definitely something here. This is like a new, a baby becoming a toddler, feeling its way out into the world. Like, it's going to be, and I'm not to take anything away from Metzis. I'm just saying, like, this is not where this is going to end up, right? This is like the first steps of this archetype, because this stuff is too good together, right? Like, Arclight Phoenix makes so much sense in this context. And it's so easy to get going. Like, if you look at this stuff, right, like Faithless Lootings and Lingering Souls, all these cards that are in this deck just like set you up to flash it back.
Yeah, but why would you not play 4 Manamorphose?
Why would you not play 4 Arclight Phoenix?
Yeah, particularly once you have all the Manamorphose.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying...
Dude, Manamorphose with Young Pyromancer, Manamorphose with Blood Moon, Manamorphose with an unrealistic mana base, Manamorphose with Liliana of the Veil, so you can actually double black it.
Oh, I didn't even realize this is a 20-land version.
Totally. It's a 20-land deck with Plains, Sacred Foundry, 2 Mountains, and then the Lilianas.
And a ton of 4-drops, and for that matter, 8-drops.
Dude, it's just Plains and Dreadbore side by side, just like Garfield intended. I think Manamorphose would be nice.
Like 4 of them, right?
Yeah, I would play 4 Manamorphose. I think Manamorphose looks legit in this deck.
I 1,000,000% agree, and my whole point is, like, when you're playing with all these Nahiris and Lilianas and Faithless Lootings, and we get the Manamorphoses in there. Manamorphoses I mean, actually, now that I say this out loud, how can you not have the Manamorphoses? They were literally, like, born to play next to Arclight Phoenix.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so my point being, ultimately, I think that we're going to get to a point in Mardu where Arclight Phoenix, Manamorphose, working together to destroy the lives of mages across the modern format.
Me too. I think Arclight Phoenix has a ways to go, because I think Arclight Phoenix with Manamorphose is going to get Manamorphose banned.
They're certainly not going to ban Arclight Phoenix.
Like, dude, Arclight Phoenix just seems insane with Manamorphose. Like, have you ever seen a good Delver deck? What if the Delver cost 0 and had haste and was a cantrip?
Yeah, the cantrip thing is really the killer. I mean,
and it keeps coming back. And he's always flipped.
How dumb is it to play the Manamorphose and the Arclight Phoenix in the same deck as Faithless Looting and Lingering Souls? Like, literally, it's like paint by numbers on this. Like,
see,
only need 2 spells.
I don't know. You say that, but I mean, I think this deck is dope. My money's on is it.
I'm just saying, I think...
either is it or Grixis or something. Some other thing that involves the blue cards, because I think the Arclight Phoenix... As good as it is with the Mardu cards, dude, Arclight Phoenix with the blue cards?
All right.
Have you seen Serum Visions?
Yeah, I mean, the Serum Visions isn't even the best one, right? Like, there's
Thought Scour.
Yeah,
Thought Scour myself
Thought Scour is something else with Arclight Phoenix. I mean, talk about just randomly destroying someone. I think
Arclight Phoenix just killing other people's Jaces. Yes.
I mean, like, what about the turns where you just want to land multiple Arclight Phoenixes? Like, if you only have 2, you don't get that many of those turns. If you have 4 and a bunch of Thought Scours, that frequency goes up a ton. Also,
dude, even in Mardu, you can even discard them to the Collective Brutalities.
I mean, how about in Grixis then? Because as much as I like Lingering Souls, I think that if I'm emphasizing Arclight Phoenix, you could play almost the same deck as this and then just switch Lingering Souls for some blue cards, and I think that your Phoenixes would be better and your Revelers would be better.
Yeah, Arclight Phoenix seems like that's what's popping, man. What do you think about the Experimental Frenzy and the sideboard? I don't know if I love it here, but like... It seems like that's a modern card waiting to happen.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I don't know how much I like it here. Especially with no Manamorphoses, he only has 20 lands. He has to get there the fair way. I don't know. What matchup do you want this in? Like a grindy matchup?
Jund, yeah.
All right. I buy it. I mean, unless...
Ostensibly. I don't know that that's the best one, though. But ostensibly, that's why you want it.
Yeah, Jund. All right.
I guess. Or Sky Control or something, you know?
Really? I don't think you.
I don't think it's right.
This guy.
I'm just saying, like, there's no way you want it for anything other than grinding.
Yeah, like you're just gonna get remanded or something. Like that would stink.
I don't know. Experimental Frenzy might just be a bad Ajani Vengeance. Or a bad Chandra.
Man, Chandra's pretty good.
I know. I like Chandra.
I mean, how do you like Nahiri here, right? Like, I feel like Nahiri's a little stranded.
Yeah.
A 1-1-1 Planeswalker split.
I think I would go a little lower to the ground. Maybe cut Nahiri for a Metamorphose.
Yeah.
Like, how many 4-cost Planeswalkers do you even need in your 20-land deck? I want to make room for 2 more Arclight Phoenixes and 4 more Manamorphose. So let's start by there's a lot. Maybe Nahiri's not the first card to go, but it's at least a reasonable candidate to be one of the first 6 cards to go.
I mean, you could literally just cut every card in this deck that functionally costs more than 2 mana, right? Like Bedlam Reveler doesn't necessarily cost more than 2, and Arclight Phoenix, ideally doesn't cost anything. But you could do something like that.
Yeah, but I like Blood Moon.
Oh yeah, okay, you're right. We keep Blood Moon. Is there no Kolaghan's Command in this deck?
Yeah, but that's fine. I don't think you want it's surprising, but I actually don't think you want. I think you can live without Kolaghan's Command. It's a good card, but what are you even getting back? It's not that kind of a thing. I think Kolaghan's Command is super dope if you're going to play Snapcaster Mage, but like if you're actually going to play this color combination, I think that's what you sacrifice. Is you sacrifice the Kolaghan's Command in order to get Lingering Souls.
But you can command back Bedlam Reveler for the long grindy games. I think
that's not where you need it. That's not where you need the help, though. You've already got Bedlam Reveler in your graveyard. I don't know. Are you talking about like on turn 7?
No, I mean for long games. Like a lot of the time, you got to like just dump stuff early with your Faithless Looting because you need to fix your hand. Right, this deck has 20 lands.
I know.
The thing that I don't like about Nahiri in this deck, like at all, is like there's just no payoff to it. Like if you're gonna play that card in Modern, like
go find one of your Arclight Phoenix.
Yeah, like somewhere. What am I doing? It's just like why not play Sarkhan then? Like Sarkhan costs less mana, right? If you're not gonna do anything with it.
You are doing things with it. You're killing. That's not the real reason. It's not about the looting. The looting is only part of it. The main thing is actually the hitting the exile.
All right. You think that's the main reason to play this card?
Oh yeah.
Because you could just play other cards that do that and aren't as clunky if you want to randomly exile a permanent.
You don't have to like sell me on cutting Nahiri. There's like 20 cards here that I would start by cutting to make room for Arclight Phoenix and Manamorphose, and then we can like start to add them back. Like, there's just no way that Fatal Push, Terminate, Dreadbore, the 7th discard spell, any of the Planeswalkers, none of these cards are coming before Manamorphose and Arclight Phoenix.
So, end of the day, I think we're probably sounding a little bit rougher on.
This deck's a big jump forward. He's putting Arclight.
It's a huge jump forward. I want to make sure that's not lost. I'm just listening to myself. I think I sound kind of critical, but I think
I'm definitely critical. But that's part of my
forward. It's just when things are new, they're not going to be ultimately tuned, and I think that this is going to go somewhere that is.
We're kind of full of it. This could just be wrong. It could just be already. This is the perfect brew.
Really?
No, I don't know.
There's no way. I don't think so. I like his Arclight Phoenixes. Now let's go push it. Remember we were talking about pushing it before? This is too middle for me. Good.
Yep. Okay, you want middle. How about a blue-red Pyromancer's Ascension deck that slows down to play Ral? Is it Viceroy, just in case?
There's a long tradition in Modern of people playing blue-red combo decks and then just randomly having a 5. Whether it's a Storm God or something else, sometimes you don't get there with Plan A. So you just gotta just tap out for a 5 casting cost permanent. Hope it sticks.
Yeah, I bet Rel's not that bad. I don't believe 3 Snapcaster Mage personally, but whatever. This deck seems fine. It just seems slightly middling to me, though, because it seems like it's kind of taking a blue-red Pyromancer's Ascension. It's like a weird and maybe it's brilliant, but it's like it's kind of a little bit of an uncanny mix between a Past in Flames deck and a Blue Moon deck, but it doesn't have the Past in Flames or the Blood Moons.
Well, it's also not just strictly a blue-red deck because he's got Path to Exile.
Yeah, on the Manamorphose splash. Nice.
He's got a Sacred Foundry.
And a Hallowed Fountain. Fetch lands galore. He's got tons of white mana.
That is a ton, actually.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I mean, there are a lot of good things about this deck. For example, he's got 3 Anger of the Gods after sideboarding, and people are going to try to mess with him with graveyard creature decks. He's got some good defense there.
What do you think about the second Ral instead of a Storm God?
I think that I would rather have the Storm God in both cases.
In both cases?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. Come on. Dude, 1-1 split.
Someone's going to smash Ral in the face.
And then you'll have the Storm God, but sometimes somebody's going to smash the Storm God.
Really? Who?
What do you mean who? Somebody, I don't know.
Smashes the Storm God. The Storm God is there, and then he just messes you up. Okay,
Tarmogoyf. You can just drop Ral and kill Tarmogoyf.
All right. Got it. Or you could cast... you're right. Yes, that is true. I can see that point. But there are other answers to Tarmogoyf, right? For example, Thing in the Ice. Path to Exile.
And that's vaguely true. Yeah, that's true.
Patrick, I actually wanted to ask you this about the first deck we were talking about. This is a random question. Not random, like just general question for the format.
So random.
If you are a mage who has Rest in Peace in your sideboard, are you apt to just like generally side it in against Tarmogoyf decks? Or do you just like leave it? They're just like a Tarmogoyf. No?
I mean, it depends on what other stuff they got going, right? Like, I think that Knight of the Reliquary is like a big thing, but like if they're just like a Jund deck with Tarmogoyf, definitely no.
Yeah, I've tried it in the past, like, and you get like 2 Tarmogoyfs with it because one Rest in Peace is going to deal with however many Tarmogoyfs they've got. But I found made my deck so clunky they just killed me with something else. Yeah.
Plus, it's not like you get them because I think the first one is like maybe that's a different question. I don't know. It still seems sketchy, but like. You're talking about a deck that just already has stuff like Assassin's Trophy or Abrupt Decay or whatever. And I'm not suggesting that it doesn't get some value on the way in or whatever. I'm just saying that there's a lot of ways that they could get out of it without knowing that you had it. They just already have tools to get out of it. And it's just so bad when you go Rest in Peace and they're like, okay, Liliana or whatever. Like they do literally anything else. Dark Confidant, here I am.
Yeah. I'm generally in agreement with you. I just was wondering if you did it. So back to Mark's deck. He has some cards that we would like, though. He's got 4 Cryptic Command, 4 Manamorphose, 4 Lightning Bolt. He's got my card, he's got your card, and he's got Manamorphose.
What's my card? My card's Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Cryptic Command is also your card.
I would totally cut Cryptic Command. Not from this deck. It's really good here. But Cryptic Command. No, dude. Cryptic Command is all right. That's not the least good card to be my card. I'm in.
So here's the thing about this deck. Like, is he just like comboing people out with Pyromancer Ascension? I feel like he's just going to cast Search for His Conscience sometimes and just play like a control game and eventually kill them with Snapcaster Mage or Ral as a Viceroy. Like, this deck isn't really want to Pyromancer's Ascension you out. Like, he's got.
Well, I think it does. It takes over. That's its card draw engine, though. That's like Jace the Mind Sculptor for it, where it's like, okay, now I just have so much card advantage you can't win.
Yeah. Like, it's just, I mean,
maybe I don't know. I'm trying to guess what the theory must be because if that's not it, I don't know what else is.
Like, he's got 3 Noxious Revivals, so he's obviously got some investment in that. But like, this deck just doesn't feel to me like. I mean, I've played a lot of like blue-red combo decks, and certainly ones with Pyromancer Ascension. This is not in on Pyromancer's Ascension, right? He's just a low-land deck that's got Serum Visions and Opts and can play a control game. I think like he's not hitting you over the head with these combo elements.
Yeah. Now, if I was going to play blue-red, I think I would start by looking at something like Andrew Schneider's Is It Phoenix deck. This one, a couple spots lower in the standings, 4 Thing in the Ice, 4 Bedlam Reveler, 4 Arclight Phoenix. That's an interesting mix, right? Like completely setting aside the some sacred cows like Young Pyromancer or Snapcaster Mage, and instead focusing on individual threats that could just win the game on their own. And then I love the 4 Charter Course. I love the 4 Charter Course. That part, dope. For Serum Visions, for Faithless Looting, obviously in this deck. For Lightning Bolt, for Manamorphose, because he's a totally reasonable human being. For Thought Scour, love it, pure. For Fiery Temper. And that's like, ooh, you fancy, right?
That's a little fancy.
You've got 4 Charter Course and 4 Faithless Looting, but you're definitely fancy. And then, but you got Bedlam Reveler.
It's still fancy.
Bedlam Reveler,
make no
man.
mistake.
Bedlam Reveler, that's a combo, man. And then 2 Burst Lightning, which I don't know, man. When you got 18 land, is Burst Lightning really the best you can do?
No, I would want to have more blue spells. There's a lot of blue spells that this deck is missing right now. Like, would you rather have Burst Lightning or Sleight of Hand? Like, this is a thing in the ice deck, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking, I gotta just be a sucker, but I still just like Forked Bolt.
So, I'm going to disagree with you on this. I actually don't like this deck at all.
You don't like this deck at all?
No, not at all.
No!
So it's just like a few years ago, there was the actual like thing in the ice deck back when there was like Gataxian Probe and stuff like that. So that deck wasn't even the most successful deck in Modern, but it was differently equipped than this deck, obviously, because they banned some of the main cards in it. But like this deck isn't the most powerful at what it does. I think that the Mardu deck, you know, despite the shortcomings of the Mardu deck we talked about versus this deck having 4 Serum Visions, 4 Charter Course, etc. Wait, where is it? And 4 Manamorphose. Like, it's not the most powerful at any of these things that it's doing. And, like, just making Arclight Phoenixes with, like, no cover support at all. Like, he doesn't have any of the Delver elements, right?
Thing in the ice is the cover support. First, you do 3 with the Phoenix, and then a few turns from now, if all goes well, you might start doing 7.
He literally might lock himself. Like, that happens to thing in the ice players.
Lock himself?
Yeah, like, just bounce all your own stuff.
That's a lock?
It's a lock if somebody's smashing you in the face because their deck is more focused.
Alternatively, you could reset your Alpine Moon in case you want to switch directions.
I think this deck has some good stuff going on with it. I just don't think that... I think that like it's just not optimized for the things that it's trying to do. Like, it's not the fastest racing deck. Burst Lightning and Fiery Temper are low-power Magic cards for this strategy.
No question.
Really low-power Magic cards. Like,
That's true.
No burn player is going to be caught with Fiery Temper, and we play with garbage. Like, we play with utter garbage cards. We wouldn't be caught with that card.
Dude, I would be caught with Burst Lightning. Are you kidding? I played Burst Lightning all the time in Modern in super powerful formats. Sometimes you just need a one-cost option. But it doesn't mean that it's not a low-powered card. I had Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time. It made me want to do things a little weird.
Yeah, but when you basically had like mini Necropotence times 4 in your deck, right? So getting like short, super cheap interaction cards are highly synergistic with the ability to draw tons of extra cards for a low amount of mana, right? Because you're just operating and you're just tapping all your mana out every turn. You are literally dialing it back to, you know, Randy Bueller in 1997. You just have a different way to draw 3 cards at a time. That's not what this deck is doing. He's like committed. He has to invest in Thing of the Ice. He has to like sculpt his position so that he can get Bedlam Reveler off.
So you're saying you want to cut the Thing in the Ice for Goblin Guide, huh?
I think this deck there's a lot of stuff that still needs to be adjusted on this deck. I think that there are good ideas here.
Dude, what about the Mardu version instead of sideboarding Leyline of the Void? And maybe you just need Leyline of the Void. I could easily imagine that. But let's pretend for a second you could get away with what I'm about to propose.
Yeah.
Surgical Extraction. Dude, trigger your Phoenix faster, earlier, harder.
And it's cheap and it actually does stuff.
Oh, if only people would say that about me.
I mean,
dude, that's like surgical extraction seems dope, man.
Snapcaster surgical extraction on the second turn is actually pretty powerful, and you could just get multiple spells off quickly.
And when you're already playing 4 Inquisitions and 3 Thought Seizes,
yeah, you could just
and 2 Collective Brutalities. Sometimes you just get there.
Yeah, you could get there real quick. I actually think that I would rather have like Vapor Snag in Andrew Schneider's deck than some of these cards.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, Vapor Snag is freaking dope.
Like, this deck has no way to interact with a large creature if they deal with your Thing in the Ice. But that's bad.
The next Thing in the Ice? Hello?
Yeah, that's 4 spells later. You might be dead to their giant thing.
Okay, let's say, like, how big is the Tarmogoyf? Like a 4/5? Dude, what if you have just like... No, dude. Burst Lightning almost does enough.
No, it doesn't. Not even close.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Vapor Snag seems dope. But Vapor Snag's a lot better when you play Snapcaster Mage. I just don't vibe playing Snapcaster Mage or playing Vapor Snag without the Snapcaster Mage.
Maybe you're right. I think that there are just multiple changes that have to be made, because I think this deck just doesn't have enough manipulation for the things it's trying to do. It's an Arclight Phoenix deck and a Thing in the Ice deck, and he wants to optimize Bedlam Reveler. You just can't use slots on Fiery Temper. You just can't do it.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think I would use slots on Fiery Temper or Thing in the Ice, though, but that's just me.
The Thing in the Ice is probably a perfectly plausible sideboard card. Like, that is like maybe your get-out-of-jail-free card then. But I think there's good things going on here. Again, I don't want to seem super overly harsh. I'm saying there's just wouldn't get caught with Fiery Temper, and this deck is deceptively low power considering how high power it looks.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you got to focus on, like, there's some good stuff going on here, and I think you got to just keep nudging it towards more independently strong cards, because there's no way you're going to be as linear as the linear decks in this format. So, like, you really just want to improve your card quality.
You just could easily just be ground out by the Mardu deck, right? And we had a lot of things to say where the Mardu deck might be improved. I think the Mardu deck would thrash this deck. It just does the similar things better. And he didn't even have Manamorphose. Imagine the Mardu deck got Manamorphose.
Yeah. I'm sold. I'm back on Mardu. Although in my heart of hearts, there's just no way I'm not casting Jace the Mind Sculptor.
I'm telling you, that black-blue deck, right up your alley.
Dude, I don't think I like Liliana of the Veil right now. It's a powerful card, and maybe it's good, but, like, there are a lot of combo decks where you do it, you die. There's a lot of decks that discard their cards anyway. There's a lot of... maybe it's fine. Maybe I'm a sucker. Maybe I'm thinking of, like, a month ago or 2 months ago. But I kind of just imagine myself being one of those idiots playing 2 Jace the Mind Sculptor and 2 Teferi. Like, I say idiot ironically. Like, I would be one too. Like, I think Teferi and Jace just seem...
I mean, Teferi and Jace seem like they would be fine for this format. Like, the white sideboard cards are outstanding against all the decks in the top 8. Like, totally. Literally all the decks in the top 8. You want those white sideboard cards. You want, like, the fast, flexible counterspells. And you could just play cards like Supreme Verdict and the Spirits deck that won this event, just be like, yeah, that resolves. Like, they have no way to actually beat somebody who's drawing extra cards and wrathing them every couple of turns. Like, all they do is attack with guys, right? Like, you could just waltz them into a Settle the Wreckage and waltz them into a Supreme Verdict, and they're just going to be like, yes, my deck casts creatures, and I have some disruption, but it's not particularly relevant against somebody who has Jason Teferi.
Hey, this is kind of jumping all the way back to one of the earliest decks we covered this evening, but, like, the top 8 list with like the Bridgevine deck that Takumi Utsunomiya played had a Necrotic Wound in the sideboard, and Necrotic Wound was a card I saw a lot of as a one of in a variety of places, and I was curious why. Why is Necrotic Wound really better than Fatal Push?
Necrotic. Well, first of all, this is a deck that can dump a bunch of stuff in its graveyard, so Necrotic Wound has a higher ceiling here than it does in some other decks. But I think Necrotic Wound is actually pretty awesome if you think your opponents are going to play cards like Arclight Phoenix, right?
Arclight Phoenix?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it exiles.
Yeah, but for one, and when you're on defense, I guess that's actually pretty good. You're right. You're right. That's super good. You sold me on it. You're right. You're totally right. You're totally right. That's great. See, I knew I came to the right source.
Yeah, there you go. I think Necrotic Wound is going to be a meaningful long-term Magic card in multiple formats.
So, obviously a lot of sweet stuff in Modern, but my question to you, running up against the deadline here, any last-minute advice as to what to play or not play in this upcoming weekend's Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica?
For 1,000,000% sure, I would play a deck that had access to Banefire, hopefully had access to Azur's Gateway, and had access to either Carnage Tyrant, Experimental Frenzy, or probably one of those two cards. But I would just, my front line is, actually, the other card that I like is Settle the Wreckage. Which ironic versus my number one card is Banefire.
You like Settle the Wreckage?
Oh, I love Settle the Wreckage.
Why?
I like Settle the Wreckage for the following reasons. Number one, people say, you like Settle the Wreckage? It gets Carnage Tyrant. It gets the cards that people are just banking. They just put their entire game plan behind this thing because you're not supposed to be able to deal with it. And you can deal with it. I like that quite a bit, but I really like Azur's Gateway and Banefire type decks. And
really,
by Banefire, I think that you can substitute marches, you can substitute expansions, explosions, but I love the Gateway combo in Standard right now.
You don't think anybody's going to be destroying your gateways?
I think that it's just table stakes. People are going to be able to interact with your permanents. But for some decks in some matchups, the Gateway you just use to fix your draw. Even if you're just pitching like 3 lands, you're making your hand better. That's the right thing to do sometimes. But there's just these some matchups where you're just like, all right, after sideboarding, I have like 3 Banefires, 4 Gateways, and 4 Carnage Tyrants. Just murder the control decks. I think you're so far ahead if you have those cards.
It's so wild to me, the idea of both Carnage Tyrant and Azur's Gateway at the same time.
I played so many different decks in this format that had all 3 of those cards, and they were all different decks.
What a wild man.
Yeah, I think Carnage Tyrant's really awesome, and I think Banefire's really awesome, and I think that Gateway is the best at lacing together the other cards in your deck, but I also like Treasure Map. I also like Thematic Compass. I also like Experimental Frenzy. I just don't really like the vanilla decks very much. Like, I think like Mono Red is fine, but like it's such atrocious matchups sometimes. Like you just can't do anything about it.
I think the Mono Red will be slightly on the rise, and I think it's going to be a poor choice. I think that white is going to be such a big influence, and that we should be. I think that a lot of people have their eyes on Jeskai and Golgari, and I think the only rational thing to do is to take out all of their anti-control cards and replace them with anti-white cards and anti-Golgari cards as much as possible, and definitely nothing in their deck that's good against blue.
Yeah, that makes sense. But in something that makes sense in a different way, like just imagine, imagine you're playing Mono Red, right? So I'm a sucker playing Mono Red. Like that's some cards I own, right? So I'm going to play Mono Red, and you're like, all right, I'm going to play the faux mirror match, but I'm Mono Red and you're Red White, and we're playing like pretty similar strategies. But you have Tocatli Honor Guard, which only
Deafening Clarion,
and like you just have random guys who have first strike. Okay, I'm just never even going to get in. And then
2 5s.
Yeah.
That's the type of matchup where it's like, what was the life total at the end? Well, I don't know. It was like, if you're lucky, it was 25-0, but it's possible it was like 40-0.
I mean, like, I could draw every Fight with Fire in my deck and sideboard, and you're still going to have an Angel to kill me with. right? Like, after sideboarding, you're just like, all right, Lyra. You're like, okay, I killed the first one. You're like, all right, well, I have good blockers, so I live to draw my next Lyra. Like, okay, well, yeah, that's killing me. Like, I'm dead.
Yeah, I think Brad's list was such a turning point in this format's evolution.
Oh yeah, I think Red is such a murderer of multiple popular strategies.
And that take, I think that's one of those examples where you tune 8 cards, and it's a game changer sometimes. Like, I think that it makes all the difference in the world getting to a space where you're playing 4 lava coils in your Boros deck, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, even if you're just playing Brad's Shell, like, you don't have to go the Immortal Sun sideboard route. Like, what if you just like, all right,
No, not at all. I think you should mix it up quite a bit, definitely.
Like, you could just be like, all right, I'm going to transform into, like, a Treasure Map Frenzy deck, right? Like, you're almost as good of a Treasure Map Frenzy deck as Mono Red, but your cards are all better than theirs. Like, that's tough for a lot of decks. There's like, okay, I'm not optimized to deal with this.
It's so weird to me, the idea that Boros wants to board in Treasure Map against Mono Red.
Yeah, and believe me, as someone who's played a lot of Mono Red in this format, you will get destroyed if they do that.
Okay. Well, it'll be exciting. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll see you next week, man.
Good luck to you, sir.
All right. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Life didn't work so great. Tried to play Dredge, so jail or hate. Ghostly prison waiting for my untapped phase. Your Cora trapped in amber stasis state. Lost a lot of friends, got left